We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who shares.
I'm joined here by my co-host and recording artist, Lolita Robinson.
Well, how are you doing today?
Welcome to another day of Joy in My House.
Oh, my goodness. So much was happening this weekend. It's a very exciting weekend. How are you doing today?
Good, because I lost my bet.
Okay. Oh, okay. Now,
which is actually good because I probably would have gone crazy.
Okay. How much did you put on, or do you? I
bet $1,000 on Manny Pacquiao to get a knockdown.
Okay.
In the second round, and they were paying me 400 to 1, which means if I would have hit that, it would have been 40 grand.
Oh boy! So luckily, you don't have to pay 40 grand.
Exactly. Well, my daughter was really excited because I told her, I'm test driving a new car right now, and it's something that I've been wanting to purchase for my daughter, Alicia, who's just getting her license.
Now, what kind of car is she getting?
It's a Mercedes-Benz.
Oh,
it's a used one, but
it's
something that I've been looking to get for her.
Well, I tell you what, brother, you don't know a sleepless night until you get a teenager behind a new car or a car at 16. Oh my goodness.
And I feel that already.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I did it 3 times, but I did. Well, congratulations and good luck to you.
Thank you. I hope that you out there who are listening and viewing had a great and safe weekend. I know it was one of the biggest sporting weekends in history because of the Kentucky Derby.
Right.
The Los Angeles Clippers played, and also the fight night.
The fight. Mm-hmm. You know what? This is my first time. My girlfriend, her sister died, and so I've been spending time with her. It's funny, this season of time, ministry, God has had me more walking individually with people. Mm-hmm. But I watched the fight with her, the Clippers, and I was just so taken in. I don't know how people do that every week. I was almost having a heart attack. If it had gone into overtime, I couldn't have taken it. But I was so happy for them. Because I remember when you couldn't even give people a ticket to the Clippers. People laughed at them and wouldn't go. Right. And Peter and I were talking. He's happy that there's new ownership of the Clippers. What about you? How have you felt about them?
You know what? I used to be a big basketball fan, especially with the Los Angeles Lakers when Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, some of the old school. I'm a little older.
Yeah, I remember the old school.
Yeah, and I know that
AC Green and all that.
Yeah, AC Green. Well, I used to talk to your husband about it.
I know.
Daryl, before he passed.
I know, Daryl, that was
And we used to talk on the phone while the game was going on, and I remember those times. Things have changed so much. It's so much more about the money and the marketing now, and it's such a business. And I think I have lost the luster for the passion for sports.
Okay.
So it kind of confuses me sometimes when, Mayweather's making $210 million off a single fight.
Wow.
He's the highest paid athlete in sports history.
Okay.
It's.
I think they make their money, though. I wouldn't want to do what they have to do. But
they earn it. Don't get me wrong, but I wish
it
would be spread out a little bit more for the rest of it. Let it trickle down.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of people that go into building that person up or building that company up or building that sports team up. And I think it doesn't get spread around evenly.
But you did say, and thank God he what did he do? He gave the fight to Mexico for...
Yeah, he gave the fight to Mexico for free.
Okay.
To the fans of Mexico because they've been very loyal to him. He likes to have a lot of the fights during May, which is right where Cinco de Mayo is, which is the Independence Day for Mexico. So he knows his market. He knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. Well, hey, Van, it's good to see you. Always checking about going to school. He's
he's very diligent.
Very diligent man here.
and working his craft.
Peter and everybody,
Well, we had a great show for you last week. I want to recap last week's show. Haley Grip, she's an actress.
I heard about her during the week.
The ambassador for the Tourette Syndrome Association, the youngest board member on that. She's very precocious. I get a chance to talk to her every once in a while.
Yeah.
And she's
Facebook
full of energy.
She really is.
She's full of energy. And sometimes I think, man, I can't handle somebody so energetic. But I'm like that.
Yeah, what are you talking about? You sure are. You feel like you kind of mellowing out a little bit?
Because of my age, I think I just don't have the same energy as I used to.
Man, I'm not going to say a word.
Well, I'm a grandfather now. I go have my granddaughter and I hold her. She starts crying. Oh, it's about that time.
It's about
Here
that
you
time.
go.
Pass her back, huh?
Or
You know,
before.
Haley, we were talking about the young people that have been on this show. We've had 3 in a row
Yes.
who are entrepreneur, writing books, who are what is she like?
Speaking.
Speakers. She's
She's
like
a speaker. She's an actress. Mally just got a book out.
Yeah.
We had the other one.
The young lady who I keep getting her name. She was the rapper, beautiful girl.
Yes.
Yes. We've had some really, really amazing. I'm really glad again to say about the young people that God is using them in a powerful way.
And on that note, I wanted to touch on, I hope that all of you out there who are listening and viewing get an opportunity to like our Facebook fan page, /Joy in My House. Become a fan and receive up-to-date lineups of guests and information. Know that you can find us on twitter.com /Joy in My House. You can also follow us on Instagram, as we just started that, and our intern, Peter's very loyal and posting the pictures on Instagram.
And he's been working, because I know I've had people tell me they can't find the shows. They have gone and haven't been able to find the show, but I understand Peter's working all that out.
Yes.
You
can find us on YouTube as
Yeah.
well, LA Talk Live Radio. Just go on there and you can find our channel and you can see all of our past archive shows. But I want to let you know we have a PSA for you guys. I want you guys to come out and support our children. Our children need a voice today. Kids Talk Live is that voice, but they need your help. So please support Kids Talk Live. Go fund the project at gofundme.com/Kids Talk Live. I want you guys to donate your time, donate your money, donate your energy to this amazing organization, this amazing program that's here on LA Talk Live Radio. It's for the kids, so it allows them to kind of explore this media outlet.
What are they doing? What's the event for? I mean,
it's to give a voice to the children through
okay. I think
radio
Van's
and
gonna
media.
tell us.
Yes. I can't even hear myself.
Yeah,
There I go. Well, Kids Talk Live is a show that for talented children. Cassandra Doherty, she has a summer camp that's sponsored by Glee. And the parents bring their children in here and they do songs that you may know, like Annie,
Oh, okay.
Little
Wow.
Orphan Annie,
Yeah.
and they get together and they make up a commercial.
Oh,
And they perform it here. It may not make sense, but you wouldn't find it in a regular commercial. They'll say some bananas with something that doesn't go with bananas,
but
and
for them
would
it
you buy
does.
it and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But
Yeah.
it's just show that they have a talent to write
okay.
and things like that. So that's what Kids Talk Live is about.
Oh,
And it's a great-
congratulations. It's a new show then here, like you're saying.
It's a new show and it's a great creative outlet for them. So I want you guys to go
Yeah.
GoFundMe.com, go to LA Talk Live Radio, and I want you to support them. I think it's important that we support our youth,
Yes,
as we
we
just
do.
talked
Yes,
about.
we do, and support the other shows too. It's great to be a part of a family. I don't get to see everyone, but I'm hugging people who don't even know me in the waiting area. It's good because we're all in this together.
We really are, because we have a great show for you today,
I
ladies and
can't
gentlemen,
wait.
here on
This is-
Joy in My House.
And he's handsome too. Yay! You're finally bringing in the young, all these beautiful women. Now I've got a nice young. Well, you guys are handsome too, but his family's gorgeous. But yeah, I'm happy.
We have Marcel. He's a ministry leader here from Fullerton, California, who will be sharing his testimony, his struggles, his challenges, but also his praise. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House. I want you to stay tuned because we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Gloria Williams, inviting you to join me every Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, for the Branding Foot Nanny Show. Join me as I freestyle interview and discuss how to make your business a brand. So don't forget to tune in to the Branding Foot Nanny Show every Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, or just watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live. I am the Foot Nanny, and we are more than just talk.
Hello, I'm I'm Joel Ramirez.
And I'm Lolita Robinson Coppage, and welcome to Joy in My House
on LATalkLive.com. Inspirational radio
with a touch of recovery.
A reality show where nothing is left unsaid
and no one is insignificant who says it.
Exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is John McClure Jr., a.k.a. Simply John, and I would like to invite you to join us on GospelRhythms.com every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our show, GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio. Join us as we celebrate Christians around the world in all genres of entertainment, as well as highlight interest stories on men and women who are making a difference and impacting their community. So don't forget to tune in to GospelRhythms.com on LA Talk Live. And we're more than just talk. Remember, it's a heaven's party here on earth. So live life. Love God.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. I'm joined here by author of Shaped by the Master's Hands,
Very
Lolita Robinson, and my co-host.
All right.
And our in-studio guest, Marcel. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yay.
Well, Marcel, I always talk about this on the show, and I always mention how God books the show. I remember at a certain point, I wanted all these friends of mine, these celebrity friends, to come and do the show, and I would call them up, and nobody would call me back. Then I said, that's fine. I don't need celebrities. I'll call just some of these people that are, in ministry to come on the show. They didn't call me back either. I eventually just got down on my knees, and me and Lolita would just say, let God book the show.
That's right.
And
he did it, huh?
He did. We started getting guests.
Because you said you didn't have a guest this week, right?
And this week was one of those weeks where I didn't have a guest. I didn't plug a guest last week, because usually I plug it at the end of the show. And I said, God, I don't want to have anxiety over it. I don't want to stress about it. It's your show. You book it. And sure enough, you had spoken at your church.
Yeah.
All right.
And I saw it on Facebook, and I said, I got to have you on the show.
That's awesome.
And I didn't know your story.
Yeah.
I really trust God that God presented that to me. I just have to listen.
Yeah.
And now you're here today. So I want
That's
to
right.
thank you for taking time
Thank
out
you.
of your schedule
Thank
and
you.
coming out.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I'd like to let our audience and viewers know how we met.
Yeah,
Yeah,
too.
definitely.
Well, it's an interesting story because I bought my car out of the Mercedes-Benz dealership in Buena Park. You guys offer free car washes.
Yeah.
So I have my car washed, and it's a black car, so it's
Yeah.
awful to take care of, and I couldn't wash my car to save my life. It would be all spotty. So I take it in, and about once a week or about once every other week, and I get to see you that time, and it takes some time to wash, so we would sit down and just chat. And we know some of the same fighters that I work with, and you've worked with some of them as well. So we would chat about
Oh, my goodness.
MMA and fights. And
Work with them.
Yeah.
You work with them also? You mean
Well,
just
I
with
mean,
their cars? Or
training
what?
with them. Well,
Oh, you
with the
train?
fighters, train with the fighters.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So train hand to hand with them.
So
right
you
there.
are a...
Mixed
You-
martial artists.
You're,
Yeah.
so you guys have a lot in common.
So we would talk about that, and
A
that's
lot,
what started.
yeah.
But then we started. I always share about Christ and how He's worked in my life, and how I've been sober 7 years, gave my life to Christ 8 years ago, and then he started sharing about Christ to me.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
Come to
I can't
find out
wait to
that
hear this.
He's a strong
Okay.
Christian. So, it was just a God meeting.
Yeah.
Sometimes
really was.
you think that you're just passing by,
Right.
and you're really not. It's an opportunity
To
for
see.
us to share with each other. Now we say love one another, and like you say, God put us on this earth for relationships.
Yes, he did.
He did.
Where's
He
your
did.
church? Where do you...
I go to Living Word Christian Center in Buena Park.
Okay.
It's a little ways away from here, but I mean, it's an awesome church. Yeah.
okay. How long have you attended?
I've been there for about 8 years now. Yeah. It's awesome, man. God's doing amazing things, and He's doing them all around the world,
That's so cool. That's really cool. Okay, well...
Well, we like to let our audience and viewers get to know you a little bit. So we're going to go through your family of origin. I think people, when you say you're Christian, I think they believe, people that are non-Christian believe that your life has just transformed all of a sudden.
Oh.
And it's really not. It's a
Yeah.
long process. And Lolita always tells me it's not a program that you arrive at.
No, you don't.
Yeah, it's not.
No.
Yeah, well, definitely, yeah. I mean, I grew up in Anaheim, Fullerton, California, around that area. We didn't grow up Christian. I mean, we had Christian influences and things like that, but it wasn't like, it was a Christian set family or things like that.
Right.
No, in all intents and purposes, I mean, my mom did her best. I call her Superwoman because she
Aw,
did her
she's
best, you
awesome.
know?
I just saw her, your sister and your friend
Yeah.
are here giving you support.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's awesome. You know, I didn't have a dad growing up, and that was probably one of the single most hardest things, you know? And yeah, just growing up, and she would always take us to school, then she would go to work, and then she'd pick us up, then we go to Boys and Girls Club or
Oh,
soccer
okay.
practice, and she'd go straight to school. So it was
So
from
she
one
kept
thing.
you very much involved.
Oh yeah,
Yes, good
very
mom,
much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, because once you
Who's
were
we?
born,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, go ahead.
once you were born, you had complications. Since you were young, you had back problems.
Yeah, well, I had I don't even really know too much of the background that I had, but I know what stemmed from that. It was asthma. That was probably, and it wasn't, I mean, even like 5 years ago, the medicine that they have now is, you know, so advanced. But back
Right.
then, I remember specific times, and I'd be, you know, in and out of the hospital, midnight trips and things like that, where
Yeah.
it'd just be emergency, you know, I don't even know what the medicine that they used to.
I think it was Alupent. My son, I think you were around the same age. He had asthma too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you
I'm-
must have had it real bad. He was hospitalized, but not a lot. But you were?
Well, I mean, I'd go into the emergency room. They would help me
Wow.
out, and then they would tell me there's nothing really much that they could do. So I'd have to go home and just calm down, hot water and hot shower, you know, just to
Okay.
get the steam going on. I remember sometimes I'd be laying on my back in the bed and just squeezing the sheets, you know, because I couldn't breathe. And I remember just looking up at the sky and like you almost start seeing tingles, you know, because
Oh.
you it's like closes up your lungs, so you can't even breathe at all. And it was the craziest thing. Like I remember specifically, like I would be running and like it's just. And
Oh,
yeah.
gosh. That must be such panic.
Yeah, and that's the next thing that happens is panic sets in,
Yeah.
anxiety, and then you breathe in more, your heart rate gets, and it's crazy.
And you have to do the opposite?
Yeah, well, I mean, the craziest thing is that I didn't want to be on medicine. You know, even as a little kid, I was a stubborn kid, and always, you know, they would prescribe this or prescribe that. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna learn my best how to run without it.
What?
You know? Yeah, and it would be times when I'd be running, and then I have to stop, and then I have to just lay on the ground and. Like honestly, the fact that I'm a physical person, Joelle knows I'm running back and forth.
I'm looking at you. Yeah.
You know, but the fact that I'm able to stand up today and even run around, do all that I do, MMA and CrossFit, all that stuff, it's a crazy thing that I'm able to even do that stuff now because of the level of asthma that I had back then. I had to go, I don't even know what the machine was. It was like a steam machine that you had to hook up to your mouth.
Yeah. I have a
And-
friend who had that. Has to carry something around all the time because you never know when an attack's going to come.
yeah.
Now, I know you're not recommending this for people at home
No,
to do.
yeah.
This is something the Lord put on your heart.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
do.
Oh,
Yeah.
he definitely did. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty powerful already.
Well, I want to touch on
And I
about
want to know about his sibling. I saw your sister.
Yeah.
She's beautiful. Is she younger, old? I mean,
She's older than me.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
she looked younger, so it's
There we
okay.
go. Yeah.
All right, so you and your sister.
Yeah.
Okay, and your mom. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to touch on when you were 3 years old,
Yeah.
because this is, I think, it happens,
Yeah.
and people out there who are listening and viewing can relate to this. Because at 3 years old, your father left you and your sister.
Yeah. Well, when I was about 3, that's when the last time that I vividly remember him leaving the house and me never seeing him again.
To this day, you haven't.
No, I haven't seen him. And the craziest thing is that he barely just started contacting me about a couple of years ago. And it was just, I don't remember exactly how, but he had seen our name on Facebook, and our name is pretty recognizable as far as it being distinctive in the, you know,
You
Latino
didn't say
community.
your last name.
It was Villa Senor.
Villa Sonor. Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
And
Well, let's talk about that, because you
Yeah.
were sick
Yeah.
with the chicken pox.
Yeah.
So you remember this day vividly.
Yeah.
Why don't we go into it?
yeah, well, we were living in Fullerton in our apartment, and I remember me having the chicken pox, and it was the day that me and my sister, you know, it was shared custody. I was supposed to go be with my father that day, and he was going to take us. And as far as I know, I was sick and I couldn't go, and I know my sister was reluctant to go. She was crying. She didn't want to go, and it was a little scene right there, you know,
Very hard,
out of the
very,
apartment.
Very, very painful.
Yeah, yeah, and this is and I remember wanting to go so bad, but I mean, I just couldn't go anywhere. You're sick with the chicken pox and having a fever, you can't really do anything, you know. But I wanted to see my dad so bad. But I remember that day that was the last day that I remember seeing him, and I remember as far as I know, that's, you know, he was an alcoholic, so
Okay.
he was I mean, even now he's still an alcoholic, which is a crazy thing because it's been a long time, you know, that he's been just an alcoholic and stuck in it. And I remember he was that day let's see, so she had left with him, and from what I know is that he got a DUI, I believe, and he fled, and I know he has many warrants in California. And
Wow.
so yeah, he always asks me, he tells me to come over to Washington because that's where he lives. and
Washington
I'm like,
State.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you want me to come over there, pay for the ticket, man.
Yeah, and that's the truth. As a little boy, can you remember this? You remember so much. Do you remember did you feel abandoned when he stopped
No.
coming around? Did you feel like it was your fault?
Oh, that's like the first thing that I think of, am I not good enough? Am I not, what did I do wrong, And I remember just being a little kid and having so many frustrations and picking up so many mentalities that I realize now that are, in all intents and purposes, evil, and getting in so many fights, being frustrated with teacher, getting held back in school because I was just not.
A lot of anger?
A lot of anger, a lot of frustration. I didn't. You get to the point, even as a little kid, where you don't care anymore, and it was the craziest thing,
Well, let's talk about that, because growing up, you felt
yeah.
utterly abandoned. And
Yeah.
having the opportunity to read your testimony when you send them to me, the words that people use in their testimony, they're very powerful, because you didn't feel abandoned. You felt utterly abandoned, which, like you said, and that frustration in you, really, you didn't even know how to articulate it.
So you started acting out, basically, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, I started acting out,
And
and
your mom probably felt really helpless too. I mean, I raised my son. My husband was around, but you can't keep your kids from hurting. But it seems like she stepped in and did the best that she could do.
And she definitely did. She told me that they had many meetings where they tried to get my dad from stop drinking so much, and he would literally just walk out.
Wow.
And it was the hardest thing to me, because here I was looking up to this man, even as a little kid. And I still find myself nowadays looking up to men, like it's still in there. It's innate, And
I'm glad you say that, because now it seems so prevalent that people are coming up in homes where there's not a father, but that hole is always there.
Well, I even
that's
feel
what you're
that
saying,
with my children. I'm not there 24/7. I'm not there for my daughter who has a baby now. And sometimes even at this point, from the father perspective, sometimes I think, was that my fault that she got pregnant so young? I got pregnant young with her too, but her mother was, 9 years my senior, so she was much older. So she was much more responsible.
Yeah.
Or for me, I was just a punk kid. And I think, was that my fault? But I wonder if she thinks the same thing. Am I not worthy enough for my dad to be around all the time? So I think I can relate to that from this perspective. But you started acting out with violence.
Yeah.
Every year you would get into fights, and it always kind of would happen around the same time.
Yeah.
And you'd get suspended, which I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
Well, it was so weird. Like, I think since about the 4th grade, which was when everything was really starting to be realized in my mind of what was transpiring, of my losing my dad and everything like that.
And your other friends had their dads?
Yeah. Oh, that's the hardest thing.
See, there you go.
Rich families, friends having their dads, everything's perfect. And me just not having anything, feeling abandoned. Like I said in the testimony, I literally felt utterly abandoned. Like, I had no one to relate to, no one to relate with, and no one to share my story with, because they wouldn't even understand it, And it got to the point where I'd get so frustrated, I'd get into fights. I remember one year I had knocked this kid out, and and it was in the locker rooms, and I had knocked this kid out. This was jumping ahead a little into junior high, and I remember me and him were friends, but something had just transpired where I just got in a fight with him. We got in a fight. I knocked him out, got suspended. And it was a reoccurring thing every time before my birthday. And it started around like 4th grade. My birthday, bam. I would always get in a fight. And it wasn't something I necessarily...
No, it wasn't it was subconscious.
It was.
Why was it your birthday? I mean, what was it about? Because your dad didn't show up, or just you weren't going to have a big party, or what was it?
I think it was just more of the relationship, like that wasn't there. So I guess I tried to find it in attention any way that I possibly could,
and taking it out on other people.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Can you say you were a bully, pretty much?
No, I wasn't necessarily a bully, because it would be coming towards me. That was the craziest thing. It was people who would come to me, and I would react quick.
Okay, so this friend stepped over the bounds. So you're the type, I don't start a fight, but I will finish it.
That's exactly how it was.
Hey.
I was a finisher, yeah.
What can you say? I mean, but no, I don't want to make light of that. But
Yeah.
okay, just kind of separating that you're not a bully, but you will take care of business if need be.
Yeah, that was definitely it, yeah.
Well, I wanted to touch
Okay.
on, like you mentioned, the elementary and junior high years, because your mother tried to help you by putting you in a taekwondo program,
Yeah.
in a martial arts program, which helped a little bit, but you still had a deep longing. Tell us
Yeah.
what that process was like.
Yeah.
going into a martial arts program. I know for me, there was a lot of yelling.
You were fighting too, weren't you? As a young
I was a bully. I was a punk kid. I think I had that, what do they call it, the Napoleon syndrome.
Because you said you were short, right?
Because I was smaller, I always felt like I had to prove something. So
Yeah.
I'd pick on the lineman from the football team.
Oh, geez.
And I remember knocking the varsity lineman out. And that was the last time I was at my college preparatory school.
Okay.
And that was a big, because I begged to go to that school. It was a private school for boys. And
And then here you go messing
exactly.
it up. You know?
It was self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
Right.
So I wanted to talk about that a little bit
So
with
you guys
you.
can understand that. Talking about male aggression, maybe this is the kind of theme I'm feeling. Men are. This is the way you guys act out, right? Not everybody. I don't want to make.
This is for me, acting
Yeah.
out, fighting was an easy thing for me. I think aggression and resentment and that feeling of loneliness, I think for myself.
And
we
your
don't know how
dad
to
was
handle.
around.
And my father was, you know what, I think he was present, but
Right.
emotionally he wasn't there.
Okay.
And I
That's
think
even harder.
more men need emotional presence.
That's
Yeah.
very important. What I'm picking up here, I like to pick up themes. So go ahead. I'm learning.
Well,
from
let's
you.
talk about that. How was it going into this martial arts program?
You know what? It was
And
awesome.
Where did she find it?
It was actually at a church. It was at Cornerstone Church. It was called Heaven's Armor.
Oh.
And I think
wow.
this was the first time when I really got a godly influence, you know? And but
Was
I mean,
your mother was going to church, obviously.
yeah, well, she, her mom and her dad went to church, and there was a little time when she wasn't going to church for a little bit, but I know she started going, but it wasn't really an influence yet. It was still kind of
Okay, still kind of murky, but the
Yeah.
Lord had His hand in it. That's what
You can
Paul
totally
was
see,
saying.
yeah.
You can really see. Okay, very
Yeah.
good. All right.
Well, I was in this program called Heaven's Armor, and it was just a Taekwondo program, and I remember even being in that. I was still frustrated because I was a little kid too. You know, I was little, and I wasn't as strong, obviously, as I am nowadays. But it was just crazy because I remember always being in there and wanting to learn everything so perfectly. Like we had this thing called I believe it's the kata, and it's like you're doing your moves. And I remember I would practice religiously by myself in my room, and I would have to remember every move exactly how I did, and I would do it to the most of all of its extents, you know. And it was
so
just
you were a super achiever too.
Yeah.
You learned to overcompensate for your weakness through.
yeah, at least
achiever.
physically,
Yeah,
you know.
right.
I knew I had a certain gift to be able to do something physically, and I stuck to it, you know. And yeah, so even then, I still found like that was still not completely satisfying, if I could say that. You know, it was super. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. It was amazing. I would, get belts. I would get stripes on my belts. I would get break boards and things like that, and learn my kata. And we would do sparring sessions. Man, that was my favorite. And I remember going against one of my trainers, or one of my masters, and it was so funny because being a little kid, like you go straight for the nuts, you know.
Oh wow, wow, man, yeah.
And I remember that.
I don't have that experience, but I'll just take it.
But I remember that, and it was just so crazy because even then I still knew there was something missing. There was something missing. The best way I could
You still
explain
had
it.
that hole. It didn't get rid of the fire inside.
It didn't, because when I would leave, I would have to go back to reality. You know, I would leave the dojo and have to go right back to where I was before.
Well, was your master? I mean, you were telling me they were kind of teaching you not to be violent, though, right? Is it kind of a dichotomy type of a?
It is, because they teach you how to do all these amazing things, but then they
Right.
don't want you to use it.
Right.
And when you're young, if you don't have that emotional stability, that now in my older age, when I teach a children's program, it's more for child development,
Right.
teaching them that emotional stability more than the technique itself.
Okay.
Where before it was more learn the technique, and through the technique you'll learn that emotional stability. If you don't have a good master, a good mentor, you get confused, especially at a young age. So I think we acted out using it. At least I know I did.
Yeah, you too. Is that kind of similar? to
Oh,
your experience?
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But growing up, you still, even through this discipline, through this structure, you turn to drugs.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that a little bit after junior high.
Yeah. Well, I had my best friend Ezra. You know, me and him, like we were side by side. We did everything together. You know, and his brothers, they were introduced into weed a long time, and he was the first one to introduce me to that. That was in junior high. So I was still extremely young. You know, we were
That's
honestly
very young.
we would brag because we were like, oh, we're some of the first people to know how to do this stuff. You know, anything like that. And I mean, as far as it goes, that was the depths of which drugs I would use. But I mean, nevertheless, it was still. I wouldn't suggest that for anybody, you know. Like I know nowadays it's getting highly popularized where it's okay, this, that, and the other. But to be honest with you, I mean, I don't think it's.
Well, tell us why. I mean, in looking back, what
Yeah.
does it do to a life? I mean, I didn't do weed or anything, so
No.
what does it do?
Well, I mean, as far as
Yeah.
My experience, it got me paranoid. It got me. It did the opposite. As for most people, it would calm people down.
Yeah.
It did the opposite for me. It got me anxious. It got me freaking out. It got me, and all the things, all that, and it made my asthma even worse.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that you're thinking about,
I remember
Okay.
specifically one time just thinking that my lungs were on fire, literally, and me hallucinating and getting scared, wondering what the heck is going on.
So everybody is not a pleasure. One experience fits everybody. They're
Yeah.
making it out like it's relaxing and
Yeah.
kind of, but it wasn't the case for you.
No, it was the complete and utter opposite.
Yeah.
My motor skills would go out the window, and I would not know what to do. Be standing in one place for a long time, wondering what the heck is going on and freaking out and just like panic. It was just because I didn't have a hold on my mind, and I think that's what it was.
And I think that's important. I think when I first started using drugs, it was a lot of fun. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You did, but it didn't sound like
But
he
then
did.
no, but then what ends up happening
Yeah.
when your life starts crumbling down, and then you want to
Yeah.
rely on the drug to give you that sensation again, has nothing to do with the drug. It got worse for me. I had to
Wow.
throw my drugs away because I was like, this is not working anymore.
Yeah.
It's same thing with alcohol, same thing with women, whatever addiction it is we use it to stuff the pain, but eventually
Yeah.
the pain is so strong
right, that, it
that
doesn't
no
help.
drug, just the opposite, the drug would enhance the pain.
Yeah.
And I said, this is not for me. And that's when I needed to search for something.
Well, I want to
greater.
talk for the standpoint of a mother, because at this time, I'm sure we get adults too. What was your relationship like with her? She's sitting here now listening to this. I know sometimes when my adult sons come and tell me stuff, my stomach just kind of, God was there even then I didn't
Yeah.
know. How was your relationship with your mom and your sister at that time?
As far as I know, I think I was still pretty rebellious. I was doing my own thing, but I would be, from what I saw, I would be as polite as I could to her because I know she was a struggling mother.
So you could see that she was, you were angry,
Yeah.
but you were trying to keep it from.
Yeah,
from
I was
hurting her.
I was doing my best to keep it from her because I at that age you don't know how to say how you feel.
Right.
You don't have the right words to articulate what you're feeling and what you're going through at that time. And to be honest, now it's still hard to put pinpoint words to what I was feeling then. But the best way I could explain it is because of my frustration, and that's what it led to, is just frustrating. Everything was just getting utterly frustrating. It was from when my dad, to me getting held back in school, to me losing some of my best friends because I got held back in school, having to go to another school, and it just keeps on stemming and stemming and stemming, and it feels like it's just a spiral.
Well, were you having learning disabilities, or was it because of you just not applying yourself?
I just didn't care.
You didn't care.
Even from a young age, I didn't
You
care
just
about
didn't
school.
care.
I was like, this isn't. They would ask me, "What's your favorite thing about school?" It's like recess and leaving.
Okay.
And that was my favorite thing.
No.
And
But this is very well said. I mean, just to give people, just for me to see what God can do in a person's life and that He had a plan. But like you were breaking it down, you guys are in a lot of pain thinking this stuff is going to help.
Right.
And it doesn't.
And the one for me that was
Were
the
you
worst.
good in school? Did you act out in school too?
I
How were
acted
your
out of
grades?
school, yeah.
Okay.
My grades would fluctuate up and down depending
Okay.
on my mood.
Okay.
If I applied myself, I did well. And then when I get to the point where I just didn't care, I mean, I remember taking a test and they asked me a question. I wrote Donald Duck.
Oh, Lord. have
That's how
mercy.
arrogant I
Yeah.
was. I
Yeah.
just was, but I think it was a crying out. I was crying out like
Something,
somebody,
yeah.
come into my life, somebody kind of comfort my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But what I got into, I think my biggest addiction was women. I think that's where I got caught up in. The drugs and the alcohol were all to meet women. And
Yeah, I still have
it's
to.
so
still have to tell them, don't call me, don't call me. I don't want to be in it. So no.
and I have to have boundaries now. Like even
Right.
people that I find myself attracted to, I have to say, you know what, I can't go and just have coffee with you. I just can't go and hang out because it'll lead into my
Right.
addiction.
Right.
So I live my life with a lot of boundaries at this point, because pornography is very, it's out there right now a lot that people are sweeping under the rug and not really
Right.
talking about it. And I
Right.
wanted to talk about this with you because you
Yeah.
mentioned it in your testimony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
You would hang posters of
So y'all going there, okay?
half naked girls in your room, and
Your poor mom. I just.
and that's what I was gonna touch on, because your mom not really knowing how to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She would say stuff like, "Well, at least he's not gay,"
Yeah.
which is something that right away mothers tend to say
Yeah.
because they don't know how to handle that situation
Yeah,
when
it
it
is
comes to
hard, yeah.
sexuality.
Yeah.
Especially when you're not a man trying to raise a man.
Yeah.
When you're a
Exactly.
woman trying to raise a man.
That's why I prayed for therapists. That's what helped
Yeah.
me through, because I didn't know, still don't know. But yeah, so let's talk about that.
Well, yeah. I mean, my
Yeah,
mom
how did
had
you-
me go to therapy. I believe it was therapy, and just to find out what's going on. Because she knew that there was a a language barrier, like not
Yeah.
necessarily, she spoke English, I spoke English. So it wasn't that language barrier. It was
Men from Mars and women from Venus stuff.
exactly,
Yeah, right.
And that was just there. I had friends who had influenced that, they had it everywhere, and it's in their life, it was normal.
Pornography.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were the ones who would take me to the car shows and, meet up with the girls. Here I am, 13 years old, looking at this,
Oh, my
fully
goodness.
developed woman, and I'm like, what the heck is this?
Yeah,
This is,
right.
and then the first thing you think is this is amazing,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I would hang that stuff up. She knows my room would be full of posters, whether it was skateboarding or girls or whatever it was. It was everything that I wanted my life to be,
Mm-hmm.
and I would put that on the ceiling. I wanted my life to be fully consumed with this, that, and the other.
And that's what they're doing today for men. Aren't
Yeah.
they still? I mean, my girlfriend and I were looking at this hamburger commercial, and this girl walking,
Yeah.
in this bathing suit, smoking hot, eating this big
Yeah.
burger. I'm like,
It's highly
what
sexualized.
the heck? Why?
Yeah.
So from the very onset, you guys feel like you have to have these beautiful smoking body women, and
And you're not talking about that right now. The girl I'm dating is stunning.
Mm.
And I feel such validation when I'm with her. And having read your testimony, I had to take a step back and pray about it. Is it really that I'm that interested in this woman of who she is? Or is it
Or
that she's
that-
just drop dead gorgeous and it validates my existence? Because I wrote this in the script. This opened the door to wanting to feel validation by people. You would value yourself by how hot your girlfriend was.
Yeah.
that's what you were doing too.
You were searching for that
13.
perfect girl.
Yeah, definitely. I want to call her Eve because I feel like we are always,
for
as
you.
men, we always want to try and find that Eve
Okay.
to bring us back to the
What do you
position
mean
where
by
we were.
that? Break that down.
Well,
That
I mean,
Eve.
and in the Word of God, it says that God had created Adam and Eve, and He created Eve out of Adam's rib, and He created out of Adam's self, and they were in themselves perfect, perfect beings, and they were sinless at that time. And since the fall of Adam and Eve, I think man has been trying to do that. He's been trying to find that perfect girl. You see, I believe that we have been trying to find this perfect image of what we think, is our type in a woman or whatever it is, it might be, but I truly do believe that there is something to be had in just a godly woman, and I would always, back then I would find the perfect, okay, that's the hottest girl, she's going to be mine, whatever way I could, even if I was not as good looking as her, that's going to be my girlfriend, and that would
Didn't
never
care
stop me.
about
No.
anything about her, just what
No.
she looked like.
It's simply physical,
And how successful were you? Were you able to?
Oh yeah, I was pretty successful at it, and the crazy thing was that they were always out of my league, and that's the craziest thing is I think it's because
What do you mean by a woman out of your league?
physically.
I know you guys say
Yeah.
that. I've heard people say that. What is that? I want, and Van Eric, doggone it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you too. A woman out of your league. What does that mean? If he could just comment a little bit, and then I want to get back to your testimony. What does it mean, a woman out of you all's league?
All right, it's like, and I'm gonna use Kim Kardashian, as physically beautiful as she is.
Right.
For an ordinary guy to have the opportunity to date someone who looked like her, it's like he said, validation.
Okay, if you can get that. Then
If you can
hey.
get that, it's like
So
wow.
that's what you were shooting for.
Yeah.
For the Kims. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm really learning today. Go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely. That validation and finding. I always like to say Eve because we are always trying to find something better. I think too, even now that we look at other people's relationships and we think that they're greater, but you don't know what's going on behind
Sure
behind
don't.
closed doors,
Sure don't. Sure
And I've realized that the things that you have right now, it's learning to be content with that, and it's not the chasing after that really satisfies. It's the content. It's learning to be content with what you got. And I was definitely in that phase. Being a young man, wanting to have that woman, because I felt at that age, even still nowadays, sometimes I'm lacking. Being a young man.
And she's gonna do something for you once you get her.
Yeah, definitely. She's gonna It would be an outside kind of thing. People would look at me like, oh, he doesn't like anything. It would be really at the base. It would be like that, where they could see that I have everything. I've got it all. In fact, I lack nothing. Instead, I've got the best girlfriend. My girlfriend's hotter than yours. There's this, that, and the other. But in reality, that still doesn't satisfy.
No, it doesn't. And what happens to the women? So I was listening lately to I love Dennis Prager, and he has on a lot about your generation. You guys are not wanting to get married. You're really not, because
It's just
how
so,
can you compete? I mean,
yeah. It's so different because the value system is
the
dropped.
women that you're, I mean, if it's like you said, the validation is how pretty. So she's got to get younger and younger and younger. There's no way you're going to want to be with somebody who is,
Real.
yeah, real. It's got to be after, you know what's going to happen is now I'll meet some men now that get like my age in the 50s and stuff. And if he's never been married, then the women start saying, what's wrong
Well,
with
that's a
you?
red flag. Yep.
Okay, so the enemy really is, he puts that carrot out there,
Mhm.
but then if you keep chasing after something that is not perfect, what
That's
about the
right.
women? I mean, so
Yeah.
what would you do? Leave one for another one when another hot one came or whatever? Or
Well, I mean, I'd be as faithful as I possibly could, you know. I mean,
Right.
but being that young age, nothing ever lasts really that long. You're never, you know.
well, you're not married now either,
Yeah.
right?
No,
so,
no.
So you still are kind of. I'm sure. I know God is
Yeah.
in your life, but is it still always going to be something you guys have to fight?
Well, I mean, to some degree, I think.
Too, I'm looking at you. Hey, I'm looking at you and you. Ladies, I'm getting it. Okay. No, go ahead.
I think to some degree, you know, as men, we always catch the image, you know?
Right,
The
the
image is
image.
always going to catch us because I think
Okay.
that's how we are somewhat hardwired, you know?
Right.
I mean, right now I have a beautiful girlfriend, but the thing that I've looked for most is she godly?
Okay.
And she's amazing. I can tell you, like, there's so many times when she's like, she corrects me, like you better get out of that attitude,
Okay,
you know?
get
And
out of that.
that's what's most beautiful to me, what I realize now.
Well, I believe that. I'm sure you're going to take us through that, but I'm just
Yeah.
talking to. So we get a lot of people, you know, the struggles that you men are going through. I think it's just, and I'm learning too.
And it's important
So
to
it's
mention
insecurity,
it.
a lot of it.
Yeah, and you know what it is. It really
Yeah.
is. And no matter how many women I filled my life with, how gorgeous they were, whether they were actresses or models, it didn't matter because it didn't fill that void. And you
it
wrote in
never
your
will.
testimony, and it never will, but you wrote in your testimony that would even frustrate you even more.
Yeah.
So you found an outlet, though, and I wanted to touch on this because this is something that really kind of God used to send you on another direction.
Yeah.
You really got into skateboarding.
Yeah.
So you would go all across the state with
Yeah.
your friends who were a little older to find different skate, you
Yeah.
know, sessions.
Yeah.
Martial arts is skateboarding. Wow,
Yeah,
you
I
got
was-
quite a life.
Yeah, I was pretty. It's funny. I mean, being as young as I am, having all the things that I've gone through, it's crazy because I went from one thing to the next, and every time I would do something, I'd go all out with it because I thought of why would you do something halfway, you know? And skateboarding was an obsession. I can definitely say that because it was consuming every part of my life. Like I wanted everything. Like my goal. It happened when I was about.
Were you
about
still doing
12,
drugs
13.
too? Were you still doing
Yeah,
drugs?
I was. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, and but that's the thing with skateboarding. That's highly popularized. It's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know, that's the best way I could explain skateboarding. And honestly, it was so much fun. It gets more addictive the harder the trick gets, and you land it. Man, we would go across the state looking for places to skate, and just you know, they call it hucking yourself, like throwing yourself off of big sets and trying to land a trick. Honestly, there was this one trick when I was probably going about 25 miles an hour, jumping off of a probably like 10-foot gap and landing. And I remember specifically shattering my heel and going up again and doing the same exact thing 3 times in a row, all because I wanted to get this one trick.
And you guys are still doing drugs in the midst of it.
Oh, yeah.
How do you do that?
I don't know.
Oh man, I'm
Well,
just.
I like what you said in your
Wow.
testimony because looking back, you could see the grace of God
Oh, he had
watching
you.
over you because you
Yeah.
had many situations, not just that one,
Yeah.
where you could have died or you'd be dead.
Yeah. Yeah, there was times when even from, like I said, hucking myself off of sets, like I remember one time going off of this set, tripping right before I got off the set, and my head landing inches before the last step. Like it was literally my head probably had just to move out of the way just within the nick of time. And if I would have landed on that step, because these steps, mind you, they're not just regular steps, they were bigger, they call them blocks. And if my head had hit that step, I guarantee you I would have broken my neck and died right then and there because of how fast I was going and how high it was.
Oh my.
And it was just so
goodness.
amazing. I mean, granted, I still got hurt, but I mean, nevertheless, I missed. That was I missed death right there.
Oh jeez.
Well, I wanted to touch on this real quick because I don't want to run out of time. But your mom started going to church when you're about 12, 13 years old. They had a makeshift park at the church, so
Yeah.
you ended up attending. That's what got you into
Yeah.
going to church
So
over
this
there.
church had they had martial arts and they had skateboarding.
Yeah, they did.
How
Yeah.
smart is your pastor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how you get the youth, right?
Well, I mean, he did the right thing. Look what happened,
He
you know?
sure did. Really. Wow. I'm serious. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to touch on this before we go to commercial break because you landed your dream job. You started working at a skate park
Yeah.
at a very young age, about 15 years old. So
Yeah.
the manager would tell your mom, he doesn't need to go to school. He
Yeah.
needs to come to
Oh,
work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he would take you to premieres.
Mhm.
You'd be going to restricted places with pro skaters.
Yeah.
You attended these skateboarding events,
Mhm.
and he became somewhat of a mentor and a big brother, the father you never had. So you connected with them.
Yeah.
And at this point, you thought you had everything you wanted.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that situation, because you're 16, you're making money,
Yeah.
you're going to
Oh, so you're
premieres,
getting paid for this now.
Oh, yeah.
you're hanging out with pro skaters, you're getting free
So it's
stuff.
profitable to do it.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
It was, well, that's the thing, is that a lot of people, that's what would, another thing that was frustrating is that most people wouldn't believe that skateboarding was profitable,
It looks
but
crazy to me.
yeah, but I'd get so many, I would meet so many people that it would just, it's networking right there, you know. And so me working at the skate shop, he was a really good friend of mine. He was like a big brother. Like, this guy took care of me every circumstance. His name was Bobby, and he would take care of me. He would take me out of school, be like, "Hey, Mars, you know, tell your mom you got to call out of school today because we got to
Oh,
go do this for
boy.
work." But in reality, it would be going to a Nike premiere to look at some new shoe, and then we go film at a skate spot, you know.
Okay.
And then there was a bar right next door, so I would be able to get, you know, whatever I wanted. I was 16 years old, walking into a bar. They'd be like, "Hey, what's up, Marcia?" I'm like, "What's up, man?" You know, just calling out to the people, and I got all I wanted. You know, the girls were there, and that's what the thing that tripped me out is because there was girls there that were, I want to say again, out of my league that I was able to, you know, get, and still, like, I had no idea what was going on. You know, I'm like, dang, this is crazy, you know. And yeah, at this shop, I would get all kinds of hookups. I remember specifically this guy looking like me too. Another guy, his name was Matt. He would look like me, and everybody would call me his little brother. And he had really good hookups, so I would always get amazing. I'd be able to go into, you know, secluded places for skateboarding, and just like,
So it looked like it was wonderful opportunity.
yeah, just
It
wonderful.
looked like it was paradise.
It was. And then being a skateboarder, if you don't have hookups, you're not going to get in. You know, if
So you need a mentor, somebody to get you in. While
Yeah.
Hookups are just people, like connections.
connections,
Yeah.
networking, everything. You know, you play that, like, you know, you play that well, it's going to take you further. I know there's some people out there who are professional skateboarders, not because they're good, but because
They
they're
have
good.
a good hookup.
They have a good hookup.
And I can
Wow.
relate to that. I think
What
that's
happens
so
to the mentor too? I mean,
that's so important, because I went through the same thing with my master.
Mhm.
Working at his studio, being under him, they didn't even know my age. People would bow to me.
Yeah.
They'd always offer me a drink. When we'd walk into a restaurant, the restaurant would stand up and bow to me as I walked in. Having that level of respect, or that level of whatever you want to call it, power at such a young age,
so
you have no idea what's going on, which is what you went through.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to get so much in because I know for time wise. So how can you guys? So the enemy, is the enemy underneath there? Would you say not in everything, but
For me, it was the drinking
Yeah.
and the womanizing just got way out of control
Okay.
with my master. And my master was pretty heavy duty. He'd hit me. He'd put me through the ringer. And at the time, like you said, you think it's glamorous. You think it's
Yeah.
all this
Yeah.
this fun, this
did you see the
position.
enemy too?
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
definitely did. I could see
So
him.
you're talking to these people who are in this culture. We're not saying skateboarding is bad, martial arts not
No,
bad,
no.
but it's what the enemy uses it with.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
You know, that's what I believe. I believe no culture in and of itself is evil, but what we do with it is, it can be completely evil. You know.
Right, right.
And I definitely saw that there. That I think the devil knew that I was getting so hooked up with this guy, and he was using him. You
That's
know,
what I'm hearing,
because
yeah.
there was no positive influences with this guy. I mean, he was, like I said, I had, you know, there was
Right.
no limits,
Right.
no limits with this guy. Yeah, and the devil was definitely at work in that. I can definitely say that for sure.
Wow.
But there was a man in the shop,
Mhm.
and this is
so
how
God had his man there.
That's
He-
right.
He had your mama for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
right.
his mother, kind of.
Well, she's the one that brought me to Christ.
Oh, wow.
And we talk
Yeah.
about how God uses people and puts them
Yeah.
specifically there. And not for the reason you think, but
That's
for the
right.
reason he has.
Yeah.
He was teaching my son martial arts. That's
Yeah.
how, okay, so I want to hear this. So what happened?
So
Where's God's
there was a
man?
guy sharing
Mhm.
the word of God to you
Yeah.
at the shop, which
Yeah.
actually started influencing you. Let's touch on that, and then we're going to go to a commercial break. But
Okay.
let's touch on that.
So at the shop, you know, we have our different sections. It's not necessarily spread
Now,
out.
we're out of skating board now,
Yeah,
right?
we're at skateboarding. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're still at the skate shop, but he was a leader for the the surfers, and so you wouldn't really think like it would really, you know, I mean, we're next to each other, but we're not really cool like me and Bobby are. But here he comes, starts talking to me about the Word of God, and even he would correct me, you know, when because I would cuss at the shop, and you weren't able to really cuss like that, you know. He'd be like, you just start telling me about the Word of God and things like that, and it was so crazy because I remember him. He was telling me about he was just coming back from a youth camp and how he was a leader from there, and he would talk about the Word of God, and it would be slow little hints and inference.
Were you mad at him at first when he was saying this, or was there something just kind of? Well, you
It was crazy
Well, your
because
grandparents were
yeah.
kind of, so you
It
weren't
was-
totally out of the Lord.
no,
Yeah.
I wasn't. And that's the
And
thing
your
is that
mom.
he came up to me in a way that was friendly. That was, dude, I'm just trying to talk to you. And it wouldn't be like I'm gonna go out of my way to talk to you. It was like,
Right.
well, if this thing comes
He
up,
befriended
we're
you.
gonna talk about it, you know.
Okay.
And that's exactly how it was. If it came up, he would talk about it. He would never shove it down my throat. He would never do, anything heinous. It would just be more,
You're
the
setting
conversation.
The seed. Yeah, you're setting the seed.
Exactly, and that's exactly what happened. But I mean, you can see how powerful that is,
And it was something that you did yearn for.
yeah, and
It's
it was.
something that I
Yeah.
always talk about it as a God-shaped hole, and only
Yeah.
God was
He
able to
planting
fit
those
in.
seeds.
Yeah,
So was he moving Bobby out of the way?
And that's the crazy thing is that it was. And here's this major influence, somebody who I wanted in my life so bad, and this one who I didn't really care about. This guy, he was like just he was a cool friend, and all that stuff. But I didn't really care for him. I would never hang out with him or at all. But
Right, but the word of God is sharper
Yeah.
than any two-edged sword.
Oh
He was-
my,
So how did the Lord do it? You just kind of.
Well, we're going to come back to that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We're going to take a quick commercial break,
Ooh.
ladies and gentlemen. This is Joy in My House. When we come back, how God took a hold of Marcel through the people he puts in his life for his calling. This is Joy in My House, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Church?
Yeah.
Okay. I liked it, yeah.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who shares.
I'm joined here by my co-host and recording artist, Lolita Robinson.
I just want to get going. This
And
is
our
exciting.
in-studio guest, Marcel. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the
Wow.
show.
A lot of info, Marcel. You've really been keeping up with the pace. Well, you guys are. Well, go ahead.
Well, at this point, you met somebody at the skate shop that started sharing the word of God with you, and it was something that you yearned for. And this I like what you said in your testimony. You had the opportunity to hear God's word. God is a father to the fatherless,
Oh.
and that's what got you in.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you felt at that time.
And what's this gentleman's name?
His name was David.
David,
His name was
okay.
David. And so yeah, here Bobby was the craziest, the most intense influence in my life. And then here, out of left field, comes this guy, David, talking about the word of God with me. And like I said, it wasn't big, it wasn't shoving it down my throat. It was just like whenever the time came up, he would talk about it. And it showed me that he was just somebody who lived it. And that's what.
Surfers, and I have one of my closest friends' daughter is amazing in surfing now. She's 15, but
Wow.
so they're kind of laid back, right?
Yeah.
Different
He
kind
was.
of vibe.
He definitely was laid back. I mean, he was probably more on the stronger side, but he was still laid back.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, he was just. It's the craziest thing because no matter how strong of an influence Bobby might have been in my life, this guy was that much stronger. And it wasn't even that prevalent.
You didn't even know what the Lord was doing.
No, yeah, I want to say it was I guess a hidden or a secret desire that I didn't know I needed or wanted. And it didn't come till it grew till I realized, man, this is more important than anything to me. And so here I was at the shop, hanging out, going to the bar. We'd close up, go to playing skate in the shop, going to the bar and just hanging out with the girls there and things like that, having everything I wanted. And yet it came to a point where it still didn't matter.
You still weren't satisfied.
No,
You weren't happy.
I was still, in all intents and purposes, frustrated.
Right.
And David, I remember his words ringing in my ear, and I started, you know what, I'm going to check this out. I know this church, and I had been going there to skate. I didn't really care about it, but I started going again, and man, this God-shaped hole started filling me. I remember specifically walking in to the church one day and hearing the worship, and it was just so amazing to me. I mean, music is music to me, and it's
Yeah, but
amazing.
it's
I love
different.
music,
Yeah.
but this was just something different.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, they were great. It wasn't that they had some awesome sound set.
No, but
It
they
was
were
just
praising him.
Yeah.
Right.
And you could feel, I remember just, in best way I could explain it is that you can feel something different. And it wasn't scary. It wasn't weird. It was everything that I wanted.
And you started attending that church, and God used this amazing man, and this is a man that I wanted to spend the time before we close out the show with. Bobby Mejia. Tell us a little bit
This is
about
a different
this
Bobby,
gentleman.
right?
This is the amazing thing is that, you know, when God takes something away, I believe that he always replaces it tenfold, even sevenfold.
That's
you know?
beautiful to say that. That's true.
And I have had that in so many times. And this guy, Bobby, he, again, like, I realized that the biggest influences in my life were people who were doing it on accident. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. He planted. He's a great chess player.
Yeah.
He strategically put these people in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was amazing. So after I had left the shop, and the reason why I left the shop is because I started growing more into the Lord, and I started realizing this: I can't live for the Lord and be here.
Yeah.
You know, and I used the excuse, I got to go back to school. I used any excuse I possibly could to get out of there. And I remember feeling like, man, what am I going to do now? You know, like here I am losing a job that I really liked. I wanted to be around. I liked the people I was around.
Prospering. You had money and girls. And,
had money and girls. And it was just so crazy because I left that. Even this girl really wanted me to stay, you know, and she's like, what do you know? You know, she would always ask me because I was young. She's like, when are you going to turn 18? When are you going to turn 18? You know,
Oh, wow.
She was older than me. You know, she was 23 years old and I was here as this young guy, you know.
You guys are like brothers. This is crazy, this story. Man, you guys got separated at birth. I have to ask your mother, did you drop him off somewhere else? That's so similar.
And it was just so crazy though, because
wow.
going through that, and like, man, she was gorgeous. And it was just the craziest thing because I knew that we could have hit it off, but still I knew that wouldn't satisfy. And by the grace of God, I knew that wouldn't satisfy, you know? And so I left that, started going to church, and this guy, Bobby, he was a minister of the word at church, and it wasn't until a couple years down the road that we started connecting, you know? I would go, he was the pastor of the youth ministry, and so we started connecting there, and he told me one day, he's like, Marcial, write a sermon for me. And
What?
He's like, just write it however you're gonna feel, whatever you're gonna do. And so I wrote it, and he's like, it was, because my handwriting was horrible, you know. He was like, it was hieroglyphics, but it was amazing. You know, and it was
Wow.
I just remember that, and it was like, I was like, man, I can do something with this, you know. And he's like, I don't think you know, Marcial, how powerful this is right here. He's like, coming from a young man, and this word right here is amazing, you know. And he would take me to his house, and his wife would be there and just chilling, and he would take me. He's like, all right, this is what we're going to do. And it was purposeful. You could tell. I see now. He's like, we're going to work out for an hour. Then we're going to study the word of God for an hour.
Oh, wow.
And I remember
God
I have
met
like,
you where you were.
yeah. And this, like, I was like so excited. Like, man, I get to hang out with this guy. You know, like here I am having this void and things like that. And then still like this guy wanted to invest his self to me. And here I am with that God-shaped hole and still missing out on a brotherly, fatherly love, you know. And this guy showing it to me.
The Lord brought him.
Yeah, the Lord.
And Dave was no longer in the picture.
Yeah, David was no longer in the
He just
picture.
planted the seeds and came in for that season.
Gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is amazing, because now God is using you at your church where
Yeah.
you're ministering.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have Eddie here with you.
Yeah,
When you bring
yeah.
when people come to give support.
Yeah.
What does Eddie mean to you?
That's my brother right there, you know?
Oh.
Like, we've gone through so much together, and you know what? He's a minister of the word of God, and so am I, and it's just so
Oh,
crazy.
You guys
because-
ministered together.
Yeah. And it's so awesome, though, just because, like, we've gone through so much together. And I realized, like, and there've been times when we had fought, too, you know, but we gone through that, and you come back together strong. You know, I realize that there are fights in relationships, but
Right,
if you
right.
get past that,
So God gave you the males in your life that you needed, the brothers, the
Yeah.
fathers. I mean, He gave it back. Yeah, wow.
yeah, he did.
Oh, what an amazing story
Yeah,
of transformation.
yeah.
What an amazing story.
Can you say something to
The
somebody? real
show
quick?
is coming to a close. Did you have something to say? No. The show is coming to a close, so we always like to ask. The name of the show is called Joy in My House. The premise is the joy that we have in the midst of our challenges or in the midst of our praise.
Yeah.
Marcel, what would joy in my house mean to you in today's day and age?
Man, just having God as my influence, you know, and everywhere that I am, because we are known as temples, and that, you know, the Lord dwells in us, and, you know, the Bible says that the joy of the Lord is our strength. Well, I know that God is my strength, you know, His joy prospers me in that, you know, and I think having joy in my house is literally having the Lord everywhere that I go with me, you know.
And you
Amen.
minister to the youth?
I minister to the youth,
Okay,
and I
that-
minister to the adults, yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Amen.
Wow.
Marcel, I want to thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
on the
Thank you.
show.
Thank
you
you.
for
Thank
taking
you,
out the time
Marcel.
out of your
That's
busy
awesome.
schedule. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House. I want you to catch us live here every Sunday on www.latalklive.com with life-changing stories that will inspire you, filled with hope, faith, and talent that will make you cry. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House. You guys have a blessed day.